All right, thank you, Andrew, and thank you to newMR in general for putting this together. My name is Simmons, and this talk my talk is going to be actually a talk about talking to people, which is somewhat ironic in the newMR category. This is very old MR, but done in a new way. I'm the founder of an outfit called Discuss.io. We're an online qual platform. And so Discuss.io connects brand teams directly to consumers around the world using real-time video conversations, and we make it unbelievably fast and easy for really entire organizations to connect to consumers. And don't worry, that'll be the only plug, and I'm only mentioning it because it's important to understand what it is we do and why we do it. Because we're a platform and not an agency. So we work with the majority of the world's 25 largest brand companies, as well as forward-looking agencies, to be able to execute thousands of webcam-enabled interviews and focus groups every month. As I'm speaking right now, in fact, we are currently hosting 9 simultaneous sessions with participants in 6 countries, speaking 4 different languages. And every one of those projects, by the way, was commissioned less than 7 days ago. So this talk is really about the 5 broad principles that we have found over the last couple of years in our mission to build consumer closeness and empathy within marketers everywhere. And why is that our mission? It's our mission largely because above all, I'm a marketer. And I have the pleasure of presenting here in front of this audience today because a few years ago, I got really interested in solving a problem for marketers, well, just like me. And that problem, simply say, is, so the big problem we're trying to solve here is why do new products tend to fail? And ask anyone what percentage of new products fail, and the usual answer is commonly estimated between 70 and 90%. And you can quibble on the sources. Harvard Business Review, Business School, Clayton Christensen claims 30,000 new consumer products are launched and they didn't fail. Nielsen pegs it at 85% of CPG products fail. And whatever the actual number is, I think the clear reality that we can look at as marketing and market research is that we've got a lot of work to do. And the other number that is also important, is equally important, but not on the screen, is that only 1 in 10 marketers and brand managers at Fortune 100 companies are talking to their consumers at least once a month. I mean, think about that. And of course, there's no causality between these 2 different data points in different studies, but we definitely feel that there's correlation between these 2. And so we look at that as well as how it's juxtaposed against those frightening statistics on product life cycles and how they're shortening. And so basically a rapid advancement of technology, as we're being bombarded with it every day, creates an overabundance of products. It shortens the consumer's attention span, thus requiring new tech. It is a virtuous cycle for consumers, but as product managers, marketing managers, and researchers, we have to adapt to a world that is continually refreshing. And just as an example, I just bought a Pixel 2, which for Apple users, just going to say is the best phone out there. And yet in 2 or 3 weeks, I have no doubt that it'll be trumped by something even more fantastic from a new manufacturer. So in a world in which product refresh is advancing very, very quickly, we have to look at ourselves and say, what are the biggest mistakes that we don't want to make? In a marketing environment that demands a faster life cycle, what are the biggest mistakes? Where are the landmines? And so as you look at this list, you don't know who your consumers are, lack of clear value prop, you don't get in front of your consumers early and often enough. Of all of the 5 of these that are in front of you, 4 of them can be solved by simply listening to consumers and developing that empathetic brand. The ad campaign generated an instant level of awareness. That's budget. We can't control that, but we can certainly solve some of these things. So I've generated a couple of different rules, general guidelines, I guess you should say, for how to build consumer engagement within brand companies. And the rule number 1 seems like a no-brainer, of course, but the only way to find out what your consumers are thinking is to talk to them. And while it seems like a no-brainer, it's not happening. Like I mentioned a few moments ago, HBR estimates that nearly 90% of the Fortune 100 conduct zero primary consumer research on their own. Why? Because it's absurdly time-consuming and expensive to fly around the world to speak to consumers. And that is but that is one of those things that forces consumers, as a result, to make decisions. I should say, marketers make decisions in a vacuum. So rule number one: simply get out there, talk to them, do it often, and for all the reasons that most of this audience probably already knows. But just to go through and hammer it in, it's about the various things about mitigating uncertainty, discovering, and what your value prop and opportunity truly are before you've gone through and invested a lot of time, energy, and resources into bringing your product to market. Rule number two: democratize engagement across the organization. So everyone talks about consumer obsession as a company-wide value. You'll hear it all the time within anyone in the marketing organization. But one of the things that has really struck me as we've gone through and done this is, why is it so important for everyone to connect directly, is that the empathetic brand team is really the ultimate goal. It is a team that is so in tune because they've listened to what their consumers have revealed. And it's really, really critical, as we've seen it, to really empower the marketing team themselves to be able to democratize that engagement across the organization. And I'm struck by one story that always sticks out in my head. I was talking with a head of insights at a very large brand company, and he said, quote, "I won't let the inmates run the asylum." And it struck me that some of you even may agree with that point. But I'm going to go and put myself on a limb here and say that's limiting from a brand standpoint. It is imperative that the marketing team and the insights function within that broader team are working hand in hand to be able to drive insight and understanding across the entire group, because insights are not isolated to one function. It is part of everything that every marketer needs to be doing. Rule number three, and so just to, I guess, hammer home, leadership from insights will lead to better decisions across the enterprise. And I just urge people to kind of reframe the DIY movement within consumer insights as an opportunity, because as insights professionals, we have the opportunity to go through and frame best practices to help guide others, to put the guardrails and forth into what is good, effective research and what is just knowledge gathering and consumer closeness. It's really important for both corporate researchers as well as the agencies that are guiding their thinking in some of these things to act in that consultative manner, to be able to help guide the process effectively and scalably for their clients. Okay, rule number three, and this is a pretty important one. You won't build a good product in a conference room. And I think I can probably speak to a lot of people in that people, the typical process that most of you will relate to is people sitting around a conference room with an idea. Smart people with consumer data and product know-how, but what they needed more, and what like Steve Reyes and Steve Blank will refer to this as goob, or get out of the building. And that's largely because the value of your product outside of your conference room is really the acid test by which you are understanding behavior, needs, expectations. And so while slightly controversial, I definitely go out and encourage people to look for ways to tear down barriers between marketers and their end consumers. And don't let rigor is unbelievably good in most instances, but not all questions require it. And that the pursuit of rigor and speed and balance are all, I should say, balanced between those two somewhat diametrically opposed constraints. And as professionals, that's our, as insights professionals, I should say, it's incumbent upon us to be able to help clients walk that right balance. Rule 4 is talking with consumers in their own environments. And this one's really important because no one's natural environment is a focus group facility. The actual facility, the idea of sitting behind a one-way mirror where everyone knows you're being watched and observed by others, you've gone to some isolate some area and the talk with group, that is not a natural experience for anybody. So it's really identifying ways in which it's either at the moment or online, which has become the new norm for populations, or some kind of in the moment experience. This is the new normal, and it's really important that people recognize that not only is that the new normal, but people are more open to sharing their experiences, sharing a window into their lives when it's at home or it's on a mobile device that they're super comfortable with. These are the willingness for consumers to be able to provide that window is really great, so long as the barrier for sharing isn't incredibly high. So last but not least, empathy associated with this one. Empathy doesn't travel. Empathy building has to be done directly with consumers one-on-one, and as such, the ability to go through and convert that information from one person to another person within a brand organization is really difficult. It's not transferable. So consumer engagement is a continuous process, and this kind of piles on a little bit to what I just mentioned, but it's really about institutionalizing understanding versus answering a question. It's about building a culture of curiosity within an organization in such a way that allows stakeholders to ask continuous, ongoing questions that help inform decisions in an informal yet real-time process. And you see that developing largely within organizations that are rolling out consumer empathy programs, by which marketers are speaking with their consumers once a month, once a quarter, what have you, with the simple goal of not answering any one question, but rather having an organization as a team have general, better empathetic experience to what their consumers are facing. And because of that, it is an ongoing thing, almost like going to the gym. Consumers understanding is something that just has to be developed organizationally on an ongoing basis. So, so last but not least, the 5 rules, just to summarize again, the various things that we look at. To find out what consumers are thinking, we have to talk to them. Number 2, you have to democratize education or engagement across the org. You won't build that good product in a conference room, so you've got to talk to consumers and get out of that building in their own environments in some way. And then last but not least, consumer engagement and empathy building is a continuous process that requires ongoing attention in order to be able to be really successful. But with that, I guess I'll turn it back over to Andrew for the Q&A.